Lonnie Okafor didn't realize she was running until she heard her own footsteps echo down the marble hallway of Mirage Tower. Papers fluttered from the folder, clutched to her chest. Her laptop bag bounced against her hip, and the elevator behind her dinged twice like it was mocking her. She muttered a curse under her breath. She was late. Again. The executive suite corridor was usually empty at this hour, but tonight the universe seemed determined to make her life worse. The lights flickered overhead, too bright, too gold, and her heart hammered louder than the hum of the security servers she'd been fixing all night. If her supervisor found out she hadn't installed the emergency patches yet, she'd be finished. Fired. Blacklisted again. She skidded around a corner, trying to slow down, but momentum carried her forward, straight into what felt like a concrete wall. Except the wall grunted. Her forehead smacked into something solid. Her folder exploded open across the hallway, and her laptop bag slid down her arm. She stumbled back, breathless, wincing as pain shot through her nose. A man stood in front of her. Not just any man. Tall, dark suit, shoulders like steel beams, his expression cold enough to frost glass. He looked down at her with an unreadable calm, adjusting the cuffs of his charcoal blazer as though she hadn't just collided with him at full speed. Lonnie's cheeks heated instantly. I didn't see you. I was just. The man tilted his head slightly. Running. His voice was low, smooth, a tone that could slice or seduce depending on where he aimed it. Lonnie swallowed hard, trying to gather her scattered papers, but her hands were shaking. The man knelt without saying a word, began picking them up one by one, and she felt stupidly breathless that someone like him was crouched on the floor because of her clumsiness. She reached for one page at the same time he did. Their fingers brushed. Electric. Sharp. Immediate. Lonnie jerked her hand back, heart thumping hard enough to bruise her ribs. The man paused, eyes slightly narrowing. "You're trembling." "I'm not." She absolutely was. He stood, handing her the stack of papers. His gaze was direct, too direct, like he was searching for something under her skin. She forced a polite smile. "Thank you. I really need to get to the—" She brushed past him too quickly, too flustered, and the Korean words slipped out under her breath before she could catch them. Jiljeonam. Playboy. Her eyes widened in horror. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. It was a stupid habit, muttering her thoughts in Korean whenever she was stressed. She froze mid-step, praying he hadn't heard it, but he had stopped walking. Slowly he turned, and he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a polite one, a slow, dangerous curve of his lips that made heat slide down her spine. He walked toward her at an unhurried pace, like a predator amused by a small, cornered animal. "Say that again," he murmured. "Slower." Lonnie felt her soul leave her body. She shook her head, clutching her papers like a shield. I wasn't talking to you. It was nothing." He stepped closer, too close, close enough that she had to tilt her chin up to meet his eyes. They were dark and piercing, calm, but with a spark of something dangerous beneath. "You called me something," he said. "A name. Why?" "I didn't call you anything." Her voice cracked. "Great. Perfect. Fantastic." He lifted a brow. "You called me a man." "Stop." She slapped a hand over his mouth, panicking. "Please don't repeat it." He blinked, and then he laughed. Actually laughed. It was a deep sound, low and warm, and it wrapped around her like velvet. She snatched her hand away, embarrassed, but he didn't step back. "You're interesting," he said. "I'm not," she fired back too quickly. His gaze dipped to her name tag. Lonnie Okafor, systems engineer, Nigerian, 28. She stiffened. "How? Why do you know that?" "I make it a point to know everyone who works inside my territory." "Territory?" She frowned. "This is a hotel, not." "You really don't know who I am?" No, she said honestly. He leaned in. Rio Kwan. The name hit her like a cold splash of water. Even she had heard of him. Not from newspapers, they never printed anything solid, but from co-workers, from hushed conversations between security guards, from rumors whispered like warnings. The strategist, the silent ruler, the man whose decisions shaped the criminal underworld of Hanul City without him ever lifting a gun. Cold, calculating, untouchable. Lonnie stepped back instinctively, but her spine hit the wall behind her. Rio's gaze followed her movement, amused again. Relax. If I wanted to hurt you, you wouldn't be standing. Her pulse thudded painfully. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be, he replied. God, why was he like this? Why was she still rooted to the spot? Why wasn't she running? He studied her for another long moment, too long, then slipped his hands into his pockets. Next time, he said softly, don't say things you can't explain. In any language. He walked past her, but halfway down the hall he paused, turned. By the way, he called out, I'm not a manwhore. Don't insult me with something so small. Her jaw dropped. I said I didn't mean it. His smirk deepened. Then why did you say it? And then he disappeared around the corner, leaving her breathless, humiliated, and so flustered her legs barely worked. She slid down the wall once he was gone, whispering harshly to herself, Lonnie, you absolute idiot. She had just insulted the most dangerous man in Hanul City, and he enjoyed it, loved it even. A terrible thought hit her. This wouldn't be the last time she saw him. Not after that look in his eyes. Not after that smile. Not after he said, say that again. Slower. Her heart pounded in her throat. She was in trouble. Big, irreversible trouble. And somehow she already knew she'd walk straight into it. Lonnie spent the next 3 days avoiding the executive floors like they were coated in acid. If she saw a dark suit out of the corner of her eye, she ducked into a supply closet. If she heard the elevator ding, she held her breath like a fugitive. If anyone even mentioned the words VIP guest, her stomach twisted into a stressed sailor's knot. But avoiding Rio Kwan turned out to be impossible, because Rio Kwan wasn't avoiding her. On the 4th night, she found him sitting in the quiet lounge of Mirage Tower like he owned the building, back relaxed against the velvet chair, long legs crossed, fingers turning a crystal glass he didn't seem interested in drinking from. The moment she walked in, his eyes lifted, locked onto hers, unblinking. Lonnie froze mid-step like a deer spotting headlights. Oh no, 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 no. He was supposed to be upstairs, in some secret meeting, doing scary Mafia boss things, not lounging like he came specifically to catch her walking into this room. Don't run, he said casually. She considered running anyway, but her body refused to move, so she drifted forward like she was being dragged by invisible thread. He watched her approach with the calm interest of a man observing a small, fascinating accident. Why are you here? She asked when she reached his table. Waiting. For who? He stared at her like the answer was obvious. You. Her throat dried instantly. Why? I didn't say anything insulting today. That's disappointing. He reached for the untouched drink. I was hoping you would. I'm not insulting you again. Shame. You were very cute when you panicked. Her face heated. Stop saying things like that. Why? He murmured, leaning back. It flusters you. It annoys me. That too. She pressed her lips together. What do you want? Rio nodded at the empty seat across from him. Sit. No. Lonnie. The way he said her name, low, smooth claiming, made her stomach dip. She sat before she could stop herself, then immediately regretted it. Bad. Very bad. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me the truth. Why did you call me that? Her palms sweated. Her heart raced. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I was stressed. Late for a deadline. I wasn't talking about you. You were looking straight at me. I look at people when I run into them. You didn't just run into me. His lips twitched. You slammed full speed into my ribs. That was an accident. And the insult was also an accident. Yes. He tilted his head. Then say it again. Her breath hitched. Why? I like the way you said it. Quiet. Like you didn't want me to hear. His eyes darkened. But I did. She swallowed hard. No, I'm not doing this. He laughed softly. Fine. She shifted in her chair, ready to escape, but, before you go, he said, have dinner with me. The words struck her like a thrown weapon. Lonnie stared. Dinner. Yes. Like tonight. Yes. Like a date. Rio didn't blink. Yes. Her pulse thundered. You don't even know me. I know enough. That's not how normal people work. I'm not normal people. You kidnapped a reputation for being heartless. Heartless, he repeated. Interesting description. You don't date. I'm making an exception. Why? Rio didn't respond immediately. His gaze softened, barely, but enough to melt some hidden layer of ice inside him. Because, he said quietly, for the first time in years, something actually made me feel. Lonnie's breath caught. A single sentence. That's all it took to shake her balance. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't playing. He meant it. The realization scared her. I can't, she whispered. I'm not good at this. I'm not dating anyone. I'm dealing with a lot. You think I don't know that? He asked. You wear fear like a necklace, Lonnie, and guilt like a coat you refuse to take off. She stiffened. You don't know anything about me. I know enough to recognize someone carrying a weight they didn't ask for. Her throat tightened. Why do you care? I don't care, he said simply. I'm interested. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table. This was too much, too fast, too intense. But then Rio leaned back again, giving her space, almost gentle. You don't have to decide now, he said. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. His eyes locked with hers. But don't lie to yourself and pretend you didn't feel something too. She stood abruptly. I should go. He didn't stop her, but his voice followed her as she turned away. I'll see you tomorrow, Lonnie. She hesitated. How do you know that? Because you're curious. He smiled faintly, and curiosity always comes back. Her chest tightened painfully. She hated how right he was. The next day, she did everything to avoid him. Again, she hid behind lobby columns, walked through employee-only hallways, even pretended her badge didn't work, just to avoid stepping into an elevator he was in. But Rio Kwan was not a man who accepted avoidance. That night, when she clocked out and walked through the lobby, she saw him standing beside a sleek black car parked at the curb. Door open, hands in his pockets, waiting. He didn't say anything, just watched her approach. The air felt charged, alive, dangerous. Lonnie stopped 3 steps away. Why are you here? I told you I'd see you tomorrow. That wasn't a schedule. It was a promise. You can't just. Get in. What? No. Lonnie. His voice softened. I'm not forcing you. I'm asking you. Dinner. Just dinner. She stared at the open door. She should say no. She really should. But the exhaustion in her bones, the tightness in her chest, the loneliness she pretended wasn't eating her alive. It all made her whisper. Just dinner. Yes. Nothing else. He gave her a slow, reassuring nod. Nothing else. She exhaled shakily and got in the car. The door shut behind her, sealing her fate. Rio slid into the driver's seat with a quiet confidence that made her pulse jump. You won't regret this, he said. Her voice trembled. I'm already regretting it. No, he murmured as the car pulled away from the hotel. You're afraid of wanting it. Lonnie tensed. staring out the window as the city lights blurred past. The truth pressed against her chest. He was right, and she hated that he could see her so clearly. The dinner was quiet at first, the kind of quiet that made Lonnie hyper-aware of every sound, her own breathing, the clink of utensils, the low hum of the restaurant's jazz. She refused to look at him. Every time she did, she felt heat rise to her cheeks, her pulse stubbornly thumping against her ribs. "You're staring at the menu like it's going to solve your problems," Rio said finally, voice calm but teasing. "I'm not staring," she lied. Her fork trembled slightly in her hand. He murmured. "That's exactly what someone staring looks like." Lonnie groaned softly and lowered her gaze, willing herself not to blush. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to run. But something in the way he observed her, the faint tilt of his head, the way his dark eyes lingered, made her think she didn't want to run at all. "You're unusually quiet," he said after a pause. "Do you always whisper to yourself in Korean when you're stressed?" She froze. "What?" "I know. Maybe." "Ah," he said, leaning back slightly. "So that's why I heard a certain word the other night." Her eyes widened. "I did not mean it the way it sounded." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that made her knees weak. "I believe you. But the interesting part isn't what you said, it's how you said it." She clenched her hands in her lap. "You're insane." "I've been called worse," he said smoothly, "but I'll let that slide for now." She glanced at him sideways. "You really don't frighten easily, do you?" "I don't get frightened." She frowned. "Then why do you make me feel like I might collapse any second?" Rio's smirk deepened, just enough to make her stomach twist. "Because I see you, Lonnie. Not the walls you've built. Not the guilt you carry. Just you." Her chest tightened. She didn't answer. She didn't want to. Instead, they ate in near silence, words replaced by the tension humming between them. Every glance, every brush of fingers across the table felt magnified, impossible to ignore. When dessert came, he leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "You should know. I don't do this." "What?" Her voice was sharp. "This." He gestured vaguely between them, his dark gaze holding hers. "This curiosity about someone else. About you." "I'm not," she began, but the words faltered. He interrupted softly, almost gently. "You are." Her hands went to her face briefly, then she looked away. She had tried so hard to ignore him, to protect herself, to never trust a man who could dismantle her life with one misstep. And yet here she was, heart hammering, hands trembling, and every nerve on fire. They left the restaurant after a long, quiet walk through the city streets. Neon lights blurred past as Rio guided her toward the sleek black car waiting for them. "Get in," he said simply. I can walk," she said quickly. He raised an eyebrow. "You'll get lost." She hesitated, then reluctantly opened the door. The moment she settled inside, she realized how easily he had claimed this space, claimed her attention. "Why do you want to know me so badly?" she asked quietly. "Because," he said, starting the engine, "for 7 years nothing has mattered. Then you collided into my life, and suddenly something matters again." Her heart twisted painfully. "I'm not here to fix your life. I don't expect you to." His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. "I just want you in it." Lonnie bit her lip, swallowing hard. She couldn't say no, not when his gaze felt like it had reached inside her and seen the parts she tried to hide from the world. The car ride was mostly silence, broken only by the occasional turn of a wheel or the distant sound of a horn. But the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged, thick with unspoken words. When they arrived at her apartment building, she hesitated before opening the door. This doesn't mean anything, right?" she asked, voice small. Rio smiled, faintly, a dark, knowing smile. "It can mean whatever you let it mean. But one thing's certain, I'll see you again." She wanted to argue, to say that nothing could happen between them, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she nodded, stepped out of the car, and closed the door behind her. The next morning, Lonnie tried to focus on work. She threw herself into debugging the system updates for Mirage Tower Hotel, typing furiously, trying to drown the lingering traces of Rio's presence from her mind. But he was there in the back of her mind, the curve of his smile, the intensity in his dark eyes, the way he had said her name like it mattered more than the world itself. By midday, she had to step outside for air. The city's neon haze was sharper in daylight, and for a moment she let herself breathe. But the calm didn't last long. A shadow fell across the sidewalk. She looked up and froze. Rio. He was leaning casually against the side of a building, arms crossed, the kind of effortless posture that made him seem larger than life, untouchable. "Missed me?" he asked casually. Her jaw tightened. "I told you, don't do this. Don't follow me." He pushed himself off the wall and stepped closer. "I didn't follow you. I was walking by." She narrowed her eyes. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to believe that sometimes fate has a sense of humor." His smile was teasing, impossible to resist. She exhaled sharply, crossing her arms. "You're insane." "And you're stubborn," he replied, leaning slightly toward her. "Exactly the kind of person I like." Her stomach dropped. You're dangerous, you know that?" "Dangerous?" His lips curved. "Maybe. But I'm only dangerous to the people who try to hide from me." She felt it. The magnetic pull, the unavoidable attraction, the thrill that terrified her. She hated that she wanted it. She hated that she couldn't pull away. And yet, part of her ached to step closer, to see if he was really as cold as he seemed, or if there was something else behind the sharp edges. Before she could decide, his phone buzzed. He glanced down, expression hardening slightly. "Business," he muttered. "But I'll be back." "Back?" she asked, trying to keep the pitch out of her voice. "Soon," he said, giving her a look that made her knees weak. "Don't wait up, or do. Your choice." He turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the middle of the sidewalk, heart hammering, mind racing, and every nerve alight. That night, Lonnie couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the dinner, the car ride, the way he had looked at her. And then, impossibly, the thought hit her. He could destroy me and I wouldn't care. She sat up, hugging her knees, whispering to herself, "God, what am I doing? I can't get involved with him. I can't." And yet she knew she already was. If you're enjoying Lonnie and Rio's dangerous, slow-burning chemistry, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to follow the rest of their story. The tension is just getting started. The next day, Lonnie tried to bury herself in work, but the memory of Rio's dark eyes and low voice refused to leave her mind. Every keyboard click felt hollow, every email typed mechanical. She couldn't focus. She hated herself for thinking about him, for wanting him, for craving his presence even though logic screamed danger. By late afternoon, she found herself back at the hotel, pacing near the executive corridor. She told herself it was to check on the updates she'd submitted, but in truth she wanted to see him. And she did. Rio was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, expression calm and unreadable as always. The moment she saw him, her heart tripped in her chest. "Still trying to avoid me?" he asked lightly. "I'm not avoiding you," she snapped, but her voice betrayed her. "Sure," he said with a small smile. "Then why are you pacing like a nervous student?" "I'm not," she muttered, though she couldn't stop her hands from wringing together. He stepped closer. The air between them was heavy, charged. "Lonnie," he said quietly, almost a growl in the way he spoke her name, "stop pretending you don't feel something." She couldn't finish. "You feel it." His gaze pierced hers. "That's why you're here. That's why you can't leave me alone." Her pulse hammered. She wanted to deny it, to flee, but his presence was magnetic, irresistible. "You're dangerous," she whispered. "And you," he said, stepping just close enough that she could smell his cologne, are more dangerous to yourself than anyone else. Her stomach twisted. She didn't know how to respond. Her logical mind screamed retreat, but her heart, her reckless, stubborn heart, was rooting for him. Then, unexpectedly, his phone buzzed. He glanced down, a shadow crossing his features. Lonnie stiffened. "Trouble?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes softened, and for a fleeting moment, vulnerability flickered across his face. Then it hardened again. Something came up. "I have to go," he said, but his tone left no room for negotiation. "I can come with you," she offered, before she could stop herself. He shook his head. "No, it's dangerous. Stay here." Her chest tightened. She hated that he was leaving, hated that she was obeying him. "Fine," she said, though the word tasted bitter. That night the hotel was quiet. Lonnie couldn't sleep. Every shadow in her apartment seemed alive with possibilities, threats, and memories of his touch. She wrapped herself in a blanket, hugging her knees, whispering into the darkness. "Why do you haunt me like this?" she murmured. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed away. Now it's too late." Fear gripped her chest. Her mind raced, memories of Rio's warnings and the dangerous underworld he was tied to flashing through her mind. Then, the door to her apartment burst open. Lonnie barely had time to scream before two men in black grabbed her. She struggled, but it was futile. They were strong, precise, and silent. A familiar voice echoed from the shadows. "Let her go." Rio stepped into the dim light, eyes blazing. In a flash, he was moving, punches, kicks disarming, overpowering. In seconds, the two men lay groaning on the floor and he was at her side. "Lonnie," he said, gripping her shoulders, "are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears streaking her face. "I'm fine, I think." "Good," he muttered, scanning the room for more threats. "No one else is coming. You're safe for now." Her chest heaved. Why did this happen? Who were they? Rio's expression darkened. "It's my family. My cousin, she's behind this. She's the one who sold your software to the wrong people. She wanted to hurt me and you." The words hit her like a punch. Her own creation, her software, had been used to put her life in danger. And now, somehow, it was tied to Rio's family. I didn't know," she whispered, shaking. "I know," he said, gripping her hand tightly. "And that's why you're coming with me. We end this tonight." They moved quickly, leaving her apartment and heading to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Inside, shadows danced under flickering lights. Lonnie's stomach churned with fear and adrenaline. "There," Rio whispered, pointing. Lonnie's breath caught. Her cousin-in-law, Seo Rin, stood smugly, arms crossed, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "You," she hissed, "thought you could stay out of this." Rio stepped forward. "It ends tonight, Rin." "I think not," Rin said, drawing a concealed weapon. "You're too late, Rio. And your little engineer." She sneered at Lonnie. "She's the key to everything, isn't she?" Lonnie swallowed hard, fear and fury coiling in her chest. "You're insane," she spat. "And yet," Rin said, "you're right where I want you." Rio lunged first, fast and precise, disarming Rin's guards. Lonnie, heart racing, realized she couldn't just stand there. Her fingers flew across her portable device, hacking into the warehouse security system, shutting down lights and locking doors. Chaos erupted. Rin's men stumbled blindly in the dark, and Rio moved like a shadow, taking them down one by one. Finally, Rin faced Lonnie directly. "You ruined everything," she snarled. "No," Lonnie said, her voice strong. "You ruined everything. You lied, you betrayed, and you used me. But I won't let you win." With a coordinated move, Rio tackled Rin, and the fight ended quickly. She was restrained, defeated. Rio turned to Lonnie, his dark eyes softening. "Are you okay?" She nodded, trembling, wrapping her arms around herself. Thanks to you. I think I am. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'm sorry you had to go through this. I didn't want you involved. I know, she said quietly. I don't blame you. He exhaled, relief mingling with exhaustion. I can't lose you. Not now, not ever. Lonnie's throat tightened. She stepped closer, placing her hands on his chest. I'm not going anywhere. He leaned in, their foreheads touching, the chaos of the night fading around them. We'll figure this out together. Outside, the first hints of dawn broke over Hanul City. Broken, bruised, but alive, Lonnie and Rio walked out of the warehouse hand in hand. Every scar, every mistake, every risk finally leading them here, together. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Our love wasn't the lie. He smiled, dark and soft. No, it wasn't. Everything around it, that was the lie. And with that, they disappeared into the city streets, bruised, battered, but unbroken. If you've loved the tension, romance, and danger Lonnie and Rio faced, make sure to hit like, comment your favorite moment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Trust me, the world they're in is far from safe, and the best is yet to come.